everybody, and welcome to Into the Weeds podcast here on Military Broadcast Radio. I'm Amber. Thank you for joining me tonight. This is going to be part 11 in the Athena Hogan case. I did hurt my rib this week, so I have been on the mend. I'm feeling much better, but I did have like 3 or 4 days of, feeling pretty crappy. So I have been resting all week for the most part. I put out a few videos and put some in the some audio clips in the Google Drive. But for the most part, it's just, yeah. So sorry. It's been a long week. Hello, New Orleans lady. It's good to see you. And, so I also wanted to address something. So Javier Leyva, who does the Pretend podcast, has released all 5 episodes that he's done so far on Patreon. I believe he's done it on Patreon. He may not have. I know I definitely heard it on the Google Drive. If he hasn't released it on the Patreon, I'm giving you a little sneak peek. But so I did have something to say about episode 5 that's going to air. So I wanted to clarify something because all 5 episodes of the Pretend series about Gypsy are currently available somewhere. And after listening to episode 5, I realized I needed to clarify, and I'm reading this, guys, so bear with me. I realized I needed to clarify where I stand because I don't want anyone walking away thinking I'm denying science or pretending to be a medical expert. Our channel generally does not cover the medical records. That's never been our focus. We primarily deal with with court documents, FOIA records, police and prison records, transcripts, and other primary source material. As far as the medical abuse allegation goes, based on everything I have personally reviewed, I have not seen evidence that convinces me Gypsy was medically abused, but that does not mean I can't be convinced otherwise. My question is simple, I think. Which medical procedure or treatment did Gypsy receive that was medically unnecessary, and what evidence establishes that it was unnecessary? If that evidence exists, I genuinely want to see it. I also think we have to apply the same standard to everyone. If we're told we can't rely on Dee Dee's statements because she lied, then we can't turn around and accept Gypsy's account simply because she's saying something happened. Gypsy herself has acknowledged that she is a good liar. That doesn't mean everything she says is a lie. It means her statements need to be corroborated just like anyone else's. I'm not a doctor and neither is Laura. And we're not trying to make a scientific argument about this case. I'm just asking evidentiary questions. If a qualified professional can show me evidence I've missed, I'm absolutely opening to changing my position. I'm not interested in being right. I'm interested in knowing the truth, honestly. And I don't care all day long if I'm proven wrong, And yeah. So that's what I wanted to say. Hey, Tempered Iron, good to see you. And V Now, good to see you as well. And the Toll Podcast, good to see you as well. So yeah, that's what I wanted to say about all that. I'm not a science denier. My problem is that I believe the medical professionals need to make a clear distinction. What is malingering and what is Munchausen by proxy or factitious? I can't even remember what it is now. Imposed on another. You know what I'm talking about. Anyways, so there needs to be a distinction between malingering and Munchausen by proxy, because I feel like this whole case is malingering. And when I look at malingering, I'm not looking at somebody making somebody sick. I'm looking at somebody who wants attention and is just over egging the symptoms. They're just pretending to be way sicker than they really are. And to me, that's a huge distinction. Putting something on somebody where you're saying that they intentionally made somebody sick for their own for their own devices, whatever those may be, is dangerous as well. It's just as dangerous as asking, you know, about all of these questions. I don't know. It's just there's so much about this. And also, when we did our interview with Javier, and I've written Javier an email, so he's going to know all this. So, hi, Sam. And I saw somebody else come in, I thought. No. Okay. So when we did our first interview, we thought that was just going to be a get to know you session, and that he was going to come back around and use some audio or collect some audio in a real structured interview. And so I'm not knocking him for that. I'm just saying that's what I thought was going to happen. So I didn't realize that he was going to use the audio from this exclusively in the series, because I feel like we have a lot more to talk about audibly instead of through email. And I contact him on a regular basis, sometimes every day. There's been a few days where we haven't talked or whatever, but so it's not like the stream of communication isn't open, and I'm very open and honest with him about my feelings, and he's open and honest about his as well. So I'm curious to see where this is going to go, because I just feel like there's a lot of excuses for Gypsy, and I don't understand why we aren't applying the exact same level of scrutiny to Gypsy as we do to Dee Dee, because as we know, she said she's a very good liar. So, with all that being said, we're going to get into the Athena Hogan case. And I don't think there was anything else I needed to address. Alora is upstairs with the dogs because Flynn was full on our table, just hanging out. So she put him in the crate and she is watching him. Oates is down here with me. So that's why she's gone. But yeah, so we're going to get into it tonight. And I don't know how long I will be able to last, because like I said, my rib is feeling better, but it's not completely fine. And so we'll see how this goes. So here we go. Sorry. Okay. Upon reconvening, the following proceedings. Oh, actually, we should get into where we left off last week. We left off with Angie Reed coming in, but last week we also talked about the footprints on the car and the famous footprints that, they talked about the famous footprints. So I'm hoping that we get more into that in Anne's testimony. And we don't have many pages left in this part. I've got some more that I haven't downloaded yet that I will take to the church and get downloaded again. But yeah, so this is where we're starting off. Upon reconvening, the following proceedings were had to wit, the court. Okay. Angie Reed, called as a witness on behalf of the state, having been first duly sworn, testified on her oath as follows to wit. By Mr. Tannery, state your name and occupation. Angie Reed, I'm a forensic criminalist. Where do you work? The Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation. Which office? Oklahoma City office. And how long have you been working there? Oh, over 13 years now. Would you explain what your duties are? I'm going to put this in front of me because I'm having a hard time reading it. Okay. That's making it weird, isn't it? Why is that showing? That doesn't make any sense. I don't know who that guy is. Okay, let's remove that. Sorry, guys. I was trying to make it easier for me to read, but unfortunately, it's not going to do that. Okay. How long have you been working there? Oh, over 13 years now. Would you explain what your duties are? I supervise the serology trace section of the laboratory. I do serology work, hairs and fibers. And have you had extensive training in those areas? Yes, sir. Mr. Zelps. Judge, for the purpose of this hearing, I will stipulate that Miss Reed is highly qualified in her areas of expertise and that she's about to testify to. Might move it along. I mean, I know her qualifications. The court. Is that all right with you? Mr. Tannery. Yes. Mr. Zelps. He's going to qualify her. The court. All right. The court accepts the stipulations on Miss Reed's qualifications. You can continue. By Mr. Tannery. Would you explain how evidence is received into OSBI? Yes, sir. We receive evidence from officers or from our agents. It's brought in a sealed condition with a submittal sheet. The submittal sheet is stamped in at the time that it is received. Okay. And is there an office here in Lawton? Yes, sir, there is. What happens when evidence is taken and logged in the Lawton office? Okay, the Lawton laboratory has a clock with its title and number or the date and time on it. And when evidence is brought in, the submittal sheet is stamped with that clock. And then if the evidence is to be transported on to Oklahoma City for analysis, the person who transported it signs and dates when they transport the evidence and brings it still in a sealed condition to us in Oklahoma City. Okay. I'm going to hand you what I've marked as State's Exhibit number 24. Can you identify that? Yes, sir. This is a copy of our submittal sheet. Where was that evidence on that submittal sheet received? It was submitted to the Lawton office, our laboratory, on October 2nd, 1986. Okay. What is that particular record? It is a submittal sheet from our office. Are those kept in every case in which evidence is submitted? Yes, sir. Mr. Zelps. Judge, I've got an objection. First of all, lack of personal knowledge as to this item. I don't know if there is any. And number two is, well, that's number one first. I don't know if she's just saying what it is or if she's actually seen that one. That's my objection. That was weird. The court. Why don't you clarify that then? Sorry, guys. Hold on. Sorry. Sorry, he's a pain in the neck. Okay, the court. Why don't you clarify that then? By Mr. Tannery. I'll rephrase that question. Start over. Do you keep submittal sheets such as that one every time evidence is submitted? Yes, sir, we do. And what happens to the original? The original is kept with the evidence until it is logged in our office, and then it is placed in the case file in our office. Okay. The submittal sheet then is taken to the lab in Oklahoma City with evidence? Yes, sir, it is. Did you receive that? The original of that copy? I know I was in the office when it was brought in. Okay. I took it in my hand, I don't know. I can't remember. Are those records kept in every case in which evidence is submitted to the lab? Yes, sir, they are. And are you the custodian of those types of records in your office? Of those cases I'm involved in and in my lab, yes, sir. Okay, I'm going to hand you some items. First of all, let's see. Witness Reed. May I take my jacket off if I can? The court. Yes, sure. Witness Reed. Thank you. I'm sorry. It's hot. Mr. Zelps. County commissioners messing up on us. Mr. Tannery. We've previously marked State's Exhibit 39, 40, 40. This is 39. Come out of 40, 43, and 42. Okay. Okay, can you identify these particular exhibits? Yes, sir. Okay. Yes, sir. They have my initials and the date that I began my analysis on each item. Okay, and where did you get those? Okay, they were in the evidence vault of the OSBI when I removed them for analysis. Okay, and at the time that you removed them for analysis, what condition were they in? They were sealed. I broke the seals on them. They were all separated. Were they all in one bag or what? Well, each item was in a bag, and then all of the bags were in one paper bag. And then there were other items inside of those? Yes. Okay, well, what, for example, did this number 40 contain? Well, it contained all of the clothing when it was brought in, and there was a gag in a paper sack. At the time, I believe it even contained the blood and stuff, and I removed that and put it in the refrigerator. That's what I was there. That's why I was there when it was brought in. Okay, turn to these other three items. Were they inside of the exhibit? 40. Yes, sir. 40. When you received it? Yes, they were. Okay, and 40 was sealed? Yes. And these other three that you got out, were they still sealed? Yes, they were. All right, you broke the seal yourself. Yes, I did. And that's the state exhibits number 24 that you testified to a moment ago. Does it reflect any of these 3 or 4 items? Yes, sir, it does. And which ones? It reflects the sheet, the shirt, and the socks, all 3 of them. Okay. Mr. Tannery, Your Honor, at this time, would move to have introduced into evidence these 4 exhibits. Mr. Zelps, Your Honor, I still have an objection. There is a chain of custody problem. We still do not have any testimony before the court as to who possibly could have transported the items from the Lawton to Oklahoma City, these specific items. We don't know if they were tampered with or anything. Of course, she gets the sealed condition, but we have no evidence from anybody that took them up there that said that they didn't open them or throw them out of the car or something happened. And I think it's defective at this time. The court, I don't agree at this time, but I'm going to allow you to cross-examine her before I make my final ruling. Mr. Zelps, yes, sir, thank you. By Mr. Tannery. I'll get back to these in a minute. I'm going to hand you now what has been previously marked as State's Exhibit 50, which contains some other exhibits inside, which I think I'll read them off for the record in a moment. 54, 55, 56, 57, 65, and 66. Can you identify those? Yes, sir. Again, they have my initials and the date that I opened them. And how can you identify these? By my initials. When did you receive them, if you did? I did. I received them from Donald Belcher on October the 27th, 1986. Okay. Mr. Tannery, Your Honor, at this time, I'd move to have admitted into evidence as item number 53, 54, 55, 56, 57, 65, and 66. Mr. Zelps, Judge, I have no good faith custody argument on that, so I have no objection. I think there's chain of custody. Don Belcher delivered them to her, and we've talked to him, so I don't know any objection to those items. The court, all right. Now, those are, Mr. Zelps, those are fibers. The court, numbers beginning with number, witness read, 50. The court. So we have them straight. Number 50 through number, Mr. Tannery, not all of them. Witness read. No, they skip. The court. Oh, they're not, Mr. Tannery. 50 and then they skip. All right, Mr. Tannery, 54, 55. The court. Okay. Mr. Tannery, 56, 57, 65, 66. Okay, is that correct, Miss Reed? What you have there? Witness read. I'm checking, just a moment. 54, 55, 56, 66. Yes, sir. The court. All right. Then without any objection, then those will be admitted at this time by Mr. Tannery. I'll get back to those in a minute. Okay. I'm going to hand you now what has been previously marked as States Exhibit number 67, and inside you'll find States Exhibits 68 and 69. Can you identify each of these three exhibits? Yes, sir, I can. They have my initials and the date I opened them. Okay, and where and when did you receive those, if you did? I received these in Lawton, Oklahoma on October 31st from Detective Muhammad at the Lawton Police Department. Okay, Mr. Tannery, at this time, Your Honor, I'd move to admit those three items into evidence. Mr. Zelps. No objection. Purpose of preliminary hearing, Your Honor. The court. All right, and once again, that's 60. Witness Reed, 7. Mr. Tannery, 68 and 69. The court, 67, 68, and 69 are admitted. By Mr. Tannery, I'm going to hand you now Exhibit 132, which contains States Exhibit 133 and 135. Can you identify those three exhibits? Yes, sir. When they have my initials on them, yes. Oh, they have my initials on them, yes. Where and when did you receive them? I received these at the OSBI laboratory from Greg Lord on, let me check the date on that, on November 5th. Mr. Tannery, at this time, Your Honor, I'd move to admit those three items. Mr. Zelps. No objection for purposes of preliminary hearing. The court. All right. Once again, the numbers are Witness Reed 132, 133, and 135. The court. All right. Those are admitted then for preliminary hearing. By Mr. Tannery. Now, Miss Reed, in regard to all of the items contained in these manila envelopes and the clothing that we've gotten down here, what you received other items to, I presume? Yes, sir, I did. Okay, how many? I think as of this day, I have something like 149 items. All right, now we picked this out for what reason? Well, the three over here are items from the body where I did the fibers and hairs. Mr. Zelps, my judge, I've already at this time. My objection specifically is I've always thought it was improper to testify about evidence that really hadn't been introduced, and I on the chain of custody issue on the clothing, and if I may briefly voidie, however you say that, her might resolve that. Okay, the court. Well, in a jury trial, I'd be inclined to let you do that. Mr. Zelps. Okay, the court. But I'm familiar with, yes, sir, with what the law is. Mr. Zelps. Okay, the court. And if these items are subsequently not admitted, then I'm not going to consider them. Mr. Zelps. Yes, sir. The court. Go ahead. By Mr. Tannery. Forget the question? Well, a little bit. The court. Why did you pick out these particular items? I think was the gist of the question. Witness Reed. Thank you, Your Honor. These three items are items on which I found foreign hairs or fibers. And these items over here were knowns that were submitted to me to compare with those items. Yes, sir. Now, when you found foreign objects on, actually, you have some knowns. You have a sheet, a shirt, and socks. Yes, sir. And those are known physical things, correct? Yes, sir. But on those, are you saying that you had some unknowns? I had some hairs and fibers that were not consistent with the item they were on. In other words, unforeign to those objects. All right. How did you determine that? Well, basically by looking at them. Number one, hairs are not consistent with the fibers which sheets are made out of. The fibers on the shirt and on the socks obviously were a different color than the fibers on the shirt. The socks were the socks, there were some red fibers, but it was very obvious they were not the same type of fibers that I was finding on the socks. The fibers on the shirt and on the socks are very coarse fibers, and the fibers in the clothing are rather fine. Okay, you wanted to find out what those fibers were. Yes, sir, I did. What they belong to? Yes. What did you request then in order to make tests? Okay. I looked at the fibers and because of their coarseness determined that they were from some source such as carpeting, possibly blankets, maybe even a stuffed animal with coarse fibers, something that would have been very coarse fibers. I looked at the colors and saw that I had several different colors. I explained to the officers on the case that I was looking for or what we could be looking for. I even had some of them come in and look through the stereoscope and look at the colors so that they would know what I was talking about. I then set them out to look for them. Okay. Did you have any hairs that you found on there? Yes, I did have some hairs. And at that point, all I could tell them were that I had some human hairs. I later looked at them and eliminated one of them is a head hair. Eliminated it from the victim and the pubic hair since she had no pubic hair. I didn't need to eliminate it from her. Okay. So you were looking for pubic and head hairs too? Yes. From a known source, now containing in the other 3 manila envelopes with all those other exhibits which have been admitted are hairs and fibers, are they not? Are there not? Yes, sir. All right. Did you make any test comparisons in regard to any of the items in the manila envelopes and the unknown items from the clothing found in the sacks? Yes, sir, I did. Okay, I want to take those one at a time and start with items 50, 54, 55, 56, 57 in that series. Okay. Okay, what did you do with the items contained therein? Okay, I mounted these on microscope slides and viewed them microscopically. I also did work on a polarizing microscope and also used solubilities. I did some solubility tests on them. Okay, and where did those are all fibers, are they not? Yes, sir, they are all fibers. And they all came from 504 Woodridge, according to information you have? Yes, sir, that's how they were labeled. All right, would you explain what you compared with what in regard to the fibers at 504 Woodridge? Which would be the knowns, would they not? Which the unknowns from the clothing. Okay, I started with the fibers off the shirt. I have more of those. I looked at them microscopically. They appeared to be the same type of fiber. That is, they were trilobal fibers and the color was very good. The condition was good. At that point, that's as far as I went. Then I went to the poloscope, spelled phonetically. All right. The polarizing microscope. Would you explain to the judge what that is and why you went there? A polarizing microscope is a piece of equipment that polarizes light. Light goes out in a number of different planes, and what they're trying to do is get it into just one plane coming up from the bottom. Then we have a cross pole that is another plane of light. It crosses like this. It's kind of like polarized lenses in your sunglasses. It works about the same way. Now, some of your work is done without the top pole in place, and some of it is done with it in. Of course, when it, excuse me. Sorry about that. I've got a bad allergy flare. It's good to see Lisbeth PCB and Ruth Carroll and Teffy. Thank you for coming in. I know this is laborious listening to, but I find it very interesting. So I thank you guys for sticking with me and hanging out with me because, yeah, it's a lot easier to do with an audience. So thank you. Okay. Let's see. Light passes through different items at different speeds. It slows it down or speeds it up, mostly slows it down. And when a fiber slows it down, it causes certain optical properties. Is that clear? The court. Well, I made a D in chemistry, but I think I understand what you're saying. by Mr. Tannery. What does that in technical language we can all understand? What does that show? That's the problem. Okay, it gives you the optical properties of the substance you're looking at. You're talking about birefringence. You're talking which is determined by the refractive index at different positions. It gives you the color band inference of the fiber. It can tell you basically what kind of fiber you're dealing with. Okay. This is what we're getting at. What kind of fibers? Okay. Were you finding? These were nylon fibers. All right. Now, nylon is a very broad term. That's a lot of different forms of nylon, or there's a lot of different forms of nylon. In order to get down to what form of nylon I had, this is where I used the solubilities. Okay, so you first determined that these were nylon fibers. Yes, sir. Then you get into solubilities. Yes. And then what does that show you? Okay, this determines whether I'm dealing with nylon 66. In the literature, these are generic names. So sometimes you will see it referred to as nylon 6.6, 6-6, 6,6. We found it all different ways. So for purposes of my use, I'm calling it nylon 66. I also determined that I had some that were nylon 6, which is a little different polymer of nylon. You had 2 types? Yes, sir. Okay, and after finding that you had 2 types of fibers, nylon fibers, what did you do? Okay, well, I found in my known, I had one envelope that had nylon 6 fibers, and that is 55. Here it is. 55 was labeled as hallway, red only, in front of bathroom. One of the fibers from the shirt was also nylon 6. None of the other samples contain nylon 6. They are all nylon 66. Okay, that came from the hallway. Yes, sir. Okay, the other fibers. Okay, after determining that what that was a soluble test, solubilities test. Okay, then what was the next thing you did? Okay, I went back to the comparison scope, and this is where I started looking for the wear patterns, the difference in colors. This is where I looked for the amount of soil present, the debris present on the fibers, and started comparing all of these things microscopically. Okay, the comparison microscope is what you use in hair analysis, is it not? Yes, sir, it is. Okay, and what was the purpose of using it in a fiber analysis? Well, it's basically the same purpose as a hair comparison. What you're doing is you're putting a known on one side and you're putting an unknown on the other side. And you're looking through and looking at both of them at the same time so you can view them and compare their characteristics without having to change slides and move them around. That's almost impossible to do. You need to be able to see them side by side. Okay, are there certain characteristics in fibers that you look for, such as in hairs? Yes, you're looking for the shape of the fibers. In this case, all of the fibers involved that I'm talking about today are trilobal. That is, they have 3 little lobes on them. You're looking at how coarse the fiber is. Now, you're not actually on the pole scope. I did do some measurements of that, but basically what you're doing is comparing it right there on the microscope. You're seeing if they're the same thickness. You're seeing if the color is the same, if there's variations in the color, the length of the fiber, or whether the fiber is all one color. Surprisingly, 2 fibers that may look exactly the same color to the naked eye, you put it on a comparison scope and you start picking up little differences in the color. So things like this are what you're looking at. In this case, the fibers, the trilobes, were actually splitting apart, and as they split apart, you could see that the dye didn't go to the center of the fibers. It was the surface. It didn't go down into the center portion of the fiber. Was that true on the knowns and unknowns? Yes, sir, it is. In this case, yes, sir. What was important to you in this case? Well, yes, it is. Hey, Fluffy Stingray, good to see you. All the characteristics are important. That was very important to me, yes. Okay. Any other outstanding characteristics that you're looking for? Well, the doula string you're looking for, doula string, is something that causes the fiber to be less bright. It takes some of the brightness of the dye away, and you're looking for that. And you're looking for, we can call them striations on the surface. It's actually when the fiber is made. There are marks made on the fiber. We're looking for texturing, whether the fiber is crimped or not. We're just looking at everything there. The fibers showed a great deal of wear. They were splitting apart. The ends of them were frayed. There was considerable debris along the fibers. Okay, after comparing the unknowns on the clothing with the knowns that you received from 504 Woodridge, both types, were you able to make an expert opinion as to where the knowns on the clothing came from? They are consistent in all their characteristics. I was able to check. I checked. I have a total of so far completed 6 fibers, and I was able to find matches on the known samples with all 6 of those different fibers. Of the unknowns? Yes, sir. Now, did you check other unknowns other than just the ones that came out of the defendant's house? You mean knowns? Knowns, I mean, yes. Yes, sir. I have checked quite a few at this point. I'm sure I will have more. Okay, now initially, did you tell the Lawton police to look for certain types of carpet? Well, I told them the color, basically what colors we were looking at. Okay, that was it. And I did tell them that they were worn. I didn't think it would be from brand new carpeting, but I get some fairly new carpeting. Okay, did you compare them? Yes, sir, I did. I did. Did you find any of them to be anywhere even close to consistent? So far, I've been able to eliminate any of the other knowns they've brought me just on comparison microscope. Oh, you didn't even have to get to the polarized part? No. Some of them are trilobal, but they don't show the same wear, the same dual string or delu string, or the same striations. So, what words, if you can you say concerning the fibers that were submitted to you from clothing and from the knowns at 504 Woodridge? Excuse me, guys. I'm having some issues with allergies and with some lightheadedness. I don't know what the heck's going on. Okay. Let's see. I don't remember where I was. I'm going to object. Oh, Mr. Zelps, I'm going to object to that question. Your Honor, I don't know if I'd ask Mr. Tannery to repeat the question. Mr. Tannery asked her for her opinion. Mr. Zelps, no, what words can you say about it? What does that mean? The court, well, maybe we need Mr. Zelps, form of the question. Maybe we need to have it read back then. Is there a problem with the question off the record? Whereupon the last question was read back to the reporter, back by the reporter, after which the following proceeds were had to wit, the court. You're really asking for an opinion there, which is what you said. Okay. I'm having hot flashes or something. I don't know what's going on, but I am feeling really strange right now. Oh my goodness. Hope everybody's doing well. We're going to take a little break, see how I feel, and we may get back to it or may not. I don't know. Oh, it seems like every week I keep having something going on. Actually, this is a letter from an inmate. Oops, crap. Oh well. This is a letter from an inmate who messaged me. Well, I've talked on the phone with her, and she is actually in prison for murder. She murdered her twin sister's husband, and she said that it was because she was brainwashed by her psychiatrist. I have talked to her sister, her twin sister, and her twin sister asked me not to engage with her about like coming on the show and stuff like that. So I am not going to do that. But yeah, I have some interesting things happen on a regular basis. I'm all right, Fluffy Stingray. I think I'm just having a hot flash or something. I think I'm going through menopause or whatever. I don't know. I am 47. Yeah, I'm 47. I always forget how old I am. Luckily, I was born in 79, so you just add one, if that makes sense. Anyways, oh. Yeah, unfortunately, I showed my address, so of course I did. I've already doxed myself so many times. I had my address in the Google Drive for I don't know how long. So, yeah, it is what it is. Okay. I'm going to try and read a little bit more. We'll see how it goes. Let me take one more drink. 123 Fake Street, right? Yep. Elm Street. My street is a nightmare walking up it. Holy cow. The incline is like that almost. Not really, but it's probably like that. So it really sucks. So walking the dog, I'd rather get in the car and walk and drive the car to the lake just down the street and walk him around the lake than actually walk him up my street, because it is just way too much to walk up that street. Okay. So, Mr. Tannery. Well, I can rephrase it. And yes, menopause is a blessing when it's over. I'm sure it is. Well, I can rephrase it by Mr. Tannery. What is your opinion in regard to the knowns and unknowns from the clothing and from 504 Woodridge? That they are consistent with each other, even into the wearing patterns and the soil and debris on the fibers with the knowns. Okay, now let's move to the hairs in 68, 69, and 133 and 135. You also have hair. You compared those with hairs in items 39, 42, and 43, which are sacks, correct? Actually, I've only compared them with hairs found on 39 at this point. Okay, and that was the sheet. Okay, the sheet. Again, you have your unknowns from the sheet with your knowns from the defendant in 68, 69, 133, and 135, correct? Yes, sir. Okay. What kind of test did you run on those? Okay. On these, I ran the test on the comparison microscope. I actually compared the knowns with the unknown samples. Okay. Did you determine I know you have different characteristics that you use up. I think there are up to 22 different ones that you look for. Is that correct? There's a number and it varies the length of the hair. Right. Okay. And what did you find in regard to the characteristics of the knowns and the unknowns in this case? Guys, this is really boring to me. Oh my gosh. I'm sorry. I'm going to skip, because if you guys want me to be engaged, I got to go further. Okay. So, Mr. Tannery, Judge, I believe. Okay. Wait. Okay. And those labeled. And those are labeled pubic hair of Harvey Templeton. Yes, sir, they are. And one of the hairs from State's Exhibit 39 was consistent microscopically with hairs from State Exhibit 68 and 135. And those are head hairs from the defendant, Harvey Templeton. Yes, sir, they are. Okay, Mr. Tannery, Judge, I believe that's all the questions I have at this time. And if Mr. Zelps wants to cross-examine, I re-urge my motion to have the court. All right. His question on these paper sacks here, I can't see the numbers, but I believe was on the chain of custody. Mr. Zelps, yeah, the court. If you have to inquire into that first, Mr. Zelps, sure. The court. Then I can go ahead and rule on that. Mr. Zelps, sure, if I could. Cross-examination by Mr. Zelps. Miss Reed, when you said you were in the office when State's Exhibit number, I guess it was the big bag, State's Exhibit 40 that was in it, came to your office, right? Yes, sir. Now in the office, that's a big building up there, isn't it? Well, yes, it is. You weren't standing there watching it when it came in, did you? Were you? Well, I saw Goss when he came in. I can't swear I saw it in his hand. All right, I can't remember. How do you know Goss? How do you know he was the one? Is it on your submittal sheet? Is that where his name comes from? Yes, it is. And he's the only one of our agents. Well, no, he's one of the two of our agents that have brought me anything on this case. Okay. Now, what I'm getting to is that you didn't actually see Goss with the evidence in his hands, right? I really can't remember. Okay. I don't know. And you don't know what happened to the evidence between Lawton and Oklahoma City to your lab, do you? No, except it was sealed. That's right, but you don't know if it got opened on the way and then resealed or any numerable possibilities. You understand what I'm saying? I understand. Everything's possible, right? Well, to a scientist, that's for sure. That's true. And so you don't know if on the way up here, whoever was bringing it decided he wanted to do a little examining himself and opened it up to take a look. And you don't know that, do you? That's what I'm getting to. I don't know. All right. He's in trouble if he did. We don't know if these items were contaminated between Lawton and Oklahoma City to your lab, do we? You understand what I meant by contamination? Yes. We don't know that, do we? I can't swear what another person did. I know what he was trained to do. Yes, ma'am. And people get murdered and tell us not to do that too. So, I mean, things happen, don't they? Some people don't always do what they're told. Yes, ma'am. That's what I'm getting to. Mr. Zelps, I renew my objection, Your Honor. There's a key element between Oklahoma City and Lawton. It has not been fulfilled. We don't know what happened. The court. I don't agree. The evidence is clear that this bag was sealed at I believe, the morgue here, and it was sealed when Miss Reed got it. And to assume that there was some tampering without any evidence of that is not something that's going to affect the admissibility, in my opinion. Your objection is overruled. Mr. Zelps. Thank you, Your Honor. The court. Those are, now wait a minute. Those are states, Mr. Zelps, 43, 42, 43, 42, 39. You want your paper sack in too, Dick? What the heck? The court, it's 40. Mr. Tannery, yeah, I was going to throw it in. Mr. Zelps, 40. The court. Okay. Those are admitted then, along with other exhibits that have been previously been admitted. Mr. Zelps. Okay, I can set these down by Mr. Zelps. Miss Reed, several things that I want to cover with you today. With you. First of all, I want to ask you, if you will continue with your analysis, I know that you have scheduled like everybody else and you're busy testifying, but we anticipate this case isn't going to be continued until January 7th, and there's some items that have not been able to examine, and I anticipate there will be some more. Will you work on it? So, yes, sir. Hopefully, if you have something, you could be available to come back and tell us about it. Yes, sir. Okay. Now, a couple of questions I want to ask. You said that the hair was the known and the unknown were Caucasian head hair, and they could have the same source. Is that what my understanding is? Yes, sir. One of them is a pubic hair. There's one head and one pubic. Thank you, Nancy. Okay. One head and one pubic. Uh-huh. How many total hairs were found on the sheet? The unknowns. Do you know how many unknown hairs we have on the sheets? Human? I would have to refer to my notes because I haven't completed all my analysis on that. Is that all right? Sure. I could count them. Sure, please do. I have 9 hairs at this point. 9. You determined they're human? No, one of them is definitely not human. It's an animal hair. Okay, 8. 8 are human. Well, I haven't completed all of my examination, but they appear to be. There may be some more animals. Essentially, we have 9 hairs. We have examined and made a determination, at least, that one of the unknown is consistent with a known head hair and pubic hair. Uh-huh. Okay, now, will you tell the court, please? Let me ask you this. Have you done tests on, were you present at the autopsy? No, sir. Were you present at the crime scene? No, sir. And so have you eliminated the individuals who moved or transported or investigated the Tina Hogan murder case? You can't eliminate them from possibly being hair, can you? I don't have hairs from them at this point. No, sir. Okay, what I'm getting at is this. You can't tell the judge the unknown hair that you have came from Mr. Templeton, can you? No, I can say it could. It could. Uh-huh. It could have as well as it could not have. Is that correct? Well, what I mean is you're getting into probabilities, but all I can say is it's consistent. It could have come from him. I can't eliminate him as a source. That's right, but there are other possible sources. You would agree with that. There are other peoples I haven't looked at. That's right. Okay, now is the science of looking at hair, has it been refined down to a position where you can actually find a piece of hair and then you can positively say that this came from that person's head? No, sir, I wish it had. All right. So in other words, it's not developed to an art as a fingerprint might be. My, how things have changed, right? No. Or, okay, now I want to ask you a similar thing. Let's talk about hair. Let's talk about hair a second. What type of hair groups are there? Categories. How many of hair classifications are there? Sorry. You mean from a human body? Yes, from a human. What type classifications? Okay, you have head hair, pubic hair. No, I'm talking about Caucasian, Negroid, or racial. Racial. Yes, ma'am. Tell me that first. Okay. What are your classifications there? Well, you refer to 4 groups. Okay, Caucasian, Mongoloid, which includes Orientals, American Indians, and and the Eskimos, Negroid, and mixed racial. Okay, and those are the 4 groups you have. Is that right? Boy, I took a blast from the past, or this is a blast from the past. Okay. Yes, sir. Now, in each of these groups you have, I don't know if it's you. Is it you that's devised the system, the length, the hair you can look at for so many things? Well, I didn't. Is it your system or is it recognized? I didn't devise it. Actually, it's been used in England for any number of years. The FBI's used it for years and years. Sure. It's been used. I'm not that good. I didn't come up with it. Okay. That's not anything original. No. That everybody else could pick on if I called them, right? Everybody else uses basically the same system. All right. How many characteristics on the head hair, known to unknown, did you find? There's 24. Isn't there a possibility of 22 characteristics? Well, what we say is that we look at some 18 to 22 characteristics. Okay. Now, you will hear some variations from people. Some people will say 15 to 19. Some people will say different numbers. Okay. You're talking about a number of different characteristics. You're talking about cuticle. You're talking about its thickness, its variation, its scale protrusion. You're talking about pigmentation, how it's distributed, ovoid bodies, the shape of the hair up and down it. You're talking about the medulla, how it's presented, whether it's fragmented, continuous, whether it's present. You're talking about the cortical fusii. You're going to have to spell that one, cortical, Cortical, and then fusii is Fusi. What I'm getting to is this. Did you determine how many of those characteristics matched up between the known and the unknown on the head? Okay, I don't actually count the number. What I do is look and see. I'm afraid you're going to, and we're going to see you at trial, and you're going to have no, I don't do that. Okay, I don't count numbers. I look at them and I look for the same characteristics. You're looking at all of them when you look through the microscope and you're focusing up and down through the hair. It would be almost impossible to count every one of them as you do it. It's a constant process. Let me ask you this. With the head hair involved, the known and the unknown, was it a close call by any means? Or do you feel, it was something that came to you very easily, that you thought these were consistent? Well, I thought they were consistent. It had some rather unusual characteristics. Tell us, please. Okay. It had a lot of ovid bodies. Now, in human hairs, ovid bodies they look like a large mass of pigmentation. Whether that's what they really are, everybody's still arguing. But that's what it looks like. And you see them in a lot of animal hairs, but you don't see them that frequently in human hairs. I had a lot of those. I had some ridging on the hair. Those ovoid bodies were close to the cuticle. And that's another interesting characteristic. There were several things that, I can't ever say a hair is unique, but there are several very unusual characteristics in this hair and in the unknowns. Okay, so the best you could hope to tell us today is what's similar, or it was similar, but you can't say that the unknown came from Harvey Templeton, can you? No, it was consistent. Okay, but you can't say it came from him. Not positively, no, sir. Yes, ma'am, circumstantial in nature, is it not? Most of what I do is. Okay, so now let's talk about the fibers. I'm pretty familiar with hair. Done a lot, don't have to ask you as many questions. Fibers, a different deal. I don't want to have to ask the same thing. Are you here telling the court today that the unknown fibers taken off the body of Tina Hogan came from Harvey Templeton's house at 504 Woodridge? Are you saying that? I can't positively say that they could have come from that location and no other. Okay, I will say that they could have come from the other location. They could have come from would have the two different types of carpeting. They would have to have the same wear patterns and the same soil patterns. Yes, ma'am. Mr. Zelps, Judge, I'm not going to make that argument, I'm sorry, by Mr. Zelps. There's some case law about probabilities. Usually their probabilities aren't admissible in court. You know that. No, and we aren't trying to give a number here. Okay, I know. What I'm getting to is that you can't tell this judge he's got to try to make a decision. You can't say, Judge, I'm positively sure without any reasonable doubt in my mind that these fibers found on the girl came from Harvey's house. There's no way I could say that. In addition, you can't tell the judge when they got on the clothes, can you? Well, I can't say positively when they got on the clothes. I can say that you are constantly shedding hairs and fibers. If you pick them up and you continue to move them for very long afterwards, you're going you're going to lose them. Just like the fibers you got on your clothes at home today are probably all gone by now, and you've picked up ones here. New ones. Yeah. Got new ones? It's a constant process, and that depends on weather conditions and how active you are, and just, yes, a lot. Yes, almost lots of variables, right? Yes, there is. That's why I can't be specific. What I'm getting to is you can't. We don't know if Tina Hogan picked up those fibers on her clothes on October 1st or on September 27th, or, we don't know, do we really? Well, we're carrying it a little far to put it into September 27th, I think. They usually, well, say 48 hours and they're all gone for sure. Okay, depends on how much you move around, though. You agree with that, don't you? Or if they're washed, or how much you change your clothes. That's right. And all that. If the clothes had been dirty and thrown in with some dirty clothes that had the fibers on them, and the fibers might have been transferred if the clothes were taken back without being washed. You might have gotten some. There were an awful lot. Yeah, how many fibers have we got? We're talking about now unknown fibers that I have matched up so far. We're talking about 6. Okay. I have a total of probably 14 more to look at. I'm talking about 20 fibers. All right, 20 fibers. And they're very, very small, are they not? Well, in big everyday terms, yes. In the laboratory, I understand you all got, they're pretty coarse to us. When you all talk about it, it looks like you're cruising down the road looking at houses. I mean, you blow it up and you're looking. Yes, you look at these things. Yes. They're big to you because that's part of it. They're small, though, to a human eye and to a layperson. Yes, they're not like, we're not talking about a lot. You said quite a few. I mean, 20, and they're very tiny, very difficult to see without being trained like you. Well, I will say when I pulled the items out of the sack and put them on the paper, they were obvious to me. Okay, now, but we can't, you're not ruling out the possibility that these fibers could have been on the clothes for a week or longer, are you? No, or not knowing what happened to the clothes, I can't do that. Okay, not okay. I've covered that. Let me see. Now, what I want to ask you specifically is this. In this, how many times have you analyzed fibers to try to determine if they're nylon or not? That's difficult to say. Just nylon is narrowing it down. I can recall off the top of my head a couple of other cases where I had nylon fibers. Okay, that's kind of what I'm getting to. There may have been others. It's not like hair, where you've looked at hair thousands of times. Okay. I'm actually going to stop here on page 414. I'm sorry I'm cutting it short, but I'm getting more lightheaded and just feeling weird. So I'm going to go lay down. It may just be, a little bit of shortness of breath from from my ribs as well as the menopause. I'm not sure what's going on. But yeah, I'm going to take this off real quick. And I also think I'm just getting sick or something. I don't know if it's just straight allergies because I'm like really stopped up. So, did you guys see my new McGruff crime dog? That right here. McGruff the crime dog. Alora found it at an antique shop, and so we went back the next day and found it and bought it, and I love them. So McGruff the crime dog was a huge thing in my life back in the day. I remembered going to Cops for Kids, and then the DARE program and all that stuff. So Teddy Ruxpin and McGruff and E.T. I think we got it. Oh, and we got Alf too. So I think we got a 80s, 90s theme going. Well, I hope everybody has a very blessed evening and day whenever you're watching this. And I hope that you please go out and do something good to change the world for the better. Bye, everybody.
Hi, I'm Beaker with Military Broadcast Radio TV. We're your virtual MWR, bringing veterans radio, podcasts, gaming, animation, 3D printing, and a community that never leaves you behind. Download our Roku or mobile app today.